Buffalo. Thrown down. Brian Burns gets there. Spider-Man. What a pass rush by Burns. See how quickly he got to the edge and got
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. Welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, brought to you by Bleav Podcast Networks, powered by Bet Online. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by all Panthers SI beat writer Schuyler, Callihan, and the Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart. We got a lot to get to today. This will be our final episode until after the Super Bowl, so we've got a lot to throw in. Brand new head coach, brand new general manager since the last time you saw us. We're going to talk about Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, their press conference from Thursday morning. We got some clips from there, so we'll respond and react to those. The NFC, AFC championship games, we'll give our reactions to that. We think might win MVP for the season because the NFL honors will be on before we're back on. And the Super Bowl. Can anything on earth stop Pat Mahomes and Taylor Swift? Because this thing is coming. Like it's like a train coming down the track that the NFL and nobody wants to get in the front of, but everybody's complaining about it on social media. So we're gonna of course talk about that too. It's open mailbag. So if you've got a question, a comment, you want to talk about what you saw today from the press conference itself, you can do so here, of course. And we'll be with you here till about the top of the hour. Before we get into it, though, a quick word from our sponsors over at Bet Online. With the NFL playoffs here right now and the NBA season in full swing, Bet Online has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get in on the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And where we will begin is the press conference from earlier today. Shout out to Richard checking in with us. Now, imagine my delight. I turn on the cast to my TV in my living room this morning so I can watch the press conference. And the very first thing I see is my boy Jay Stu sitting with Moose Muhammad and a bunch of OGs, and right in front of them is my man Schuyler Callihan. Like they're both like I'm seeing them on the TV while I'm watching this press conference. I'm in here geeking out like a little school kid. I'm like, yeah, those are my people. They're on the TV. What was the vibe in there today, guys? Because you both were there, and I've got comments from Dan in just a minute where he actually gave a shout out to Stu about the type of players they want. Give me the vibe in there today. How did it make you feel compared to how you felt? 4 weeks ago, at the end of week 18, when we came in here to do the show. Stu, I'll start with you.
I mean, to be honest, man, like it was definitely a different feeling in there. The word that I can use throughout this whole process, which I think should give people a fresher breath air, is authentic. And I think what it comes down to is I think as a fan, I'm learning how to be a fan of football, right? Like I've obviously played for this organization, New York Giants, played in college. The last time I was truly a fan of a football team was when I was a little kid. And so I think, as the years have gone by, 6 years now, 5 years, 6 years, I am learning how to adjust my expectations. I'm learning to understand, as what the fan is expecting. I'm learning also how to balance that as far as a guy that's played this game, and understand the reality of expectations. Going into today, my expectations were low.
As they should be.
But it's only from the standpoint of only time can tell. Only time can tell these situations. And, anyone listening to this, as a, Carolina Panther fan, a football fan, if you're experiencing any transition within within your organization, you have to be patient. And I know that has been the message and the tale of all time for the Carolina Panthers, but you have to be patient. And I think one of the things that go hand in hand with that is you have to be patient with the right coach. And I think that we've got our right coach. Everything that he said today, and obviously only time can tell, but everything he said today, you know, is everything as a player you would want to hear.
Yeah.
And not just what he said, how he said it. It was with conviction, and it wasn't with this this eager macho mentality of we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. It was, one of the things that I take away from everything about that setting was the environment, the atmosphere, the culture, everything in there. I felt like I left a better person a little bit.
Yeah.
Listening to Dave. Because one of the words he kept saying was service. And if you think about it, man, this is what this industry is all about. It's an entertainment service. Like football is a product that people come to see and watch, and the players' jobs and the coaches' jobs and everybody in the front office, their job is to service the fans. And in order to get the best product, you got to service the players. And so everything that they were talking about today was making the players better, getting better players, so that way we can win games. And so the way he was talking, it was simplified. And obviously there's variables and things that have to take place and alignment. Like the words alignment. I love he continued to use the word alignment. And people were in there asking crazy questions about, well, what do you mean by alignment? Well, alignment is when you are unaligned.
Yeah, alignment is alignment.
Like, what do you not get about being aligned?
It's almost like they knew they were going to get some of those wild questions that they just didn't want to answer. So they already knew coming in, this is what we're saying.
But he handled himself with so much poise, and that's one of the things that I think we haven't seen for quite some time, is someone that's just authentically themselves. Because at the end of the day, good football players can sniff BS from a mile away.
Yeah.
I had the honor to talk with Musa Muhammad, Mike Rucker, and Luke Kuechly the other day at the stadium. And, one of the things we were talking about was you can't fool, a guy in the locker room. Like guys know whether they're going to buy into something that's worth buying into. And this is something that, this hire and his qualification, his background, everything about him says any guy in that locker room right now has bought in. They're going to buy in. And that's all you can ask for as far as having a guy leading a team in an organization. And then you take Dan Morgan and put him and pair him with this, head coach. I mean, you got two guys that are just authentically themselves.
Yeah.
It's just like
different. They're so different too.
But different. And I love that.
Because
you're gonna get a guy that's maybe over the top on one thing, and I really like this guy, and it's gonna be like, well, this is what I don't like about this guy. Well, why don't you like it about it? So there's gonna be a lot of good conversation about who they're gonna draft, who they're gonna bring in, who's gonna be their top free agent, who's gonna make the roster, all those types of things. I love it, and I love that they have history, and just everything that Dan stands for and represents as a former player, and now being in this executive role. Nobody deserves it more than him. If you look at his journey to get to where he is, like, as a football player, he's at the top of his position, and it gets stripped away from him because his health. Literally, hey, this is not good for you anymore.
Dan was a monster.
7 years into 7 years into his his product on the field, but then he gets this like opportunity that just leads him full circle to be the head guy that gets to bring in and make decisions of guys that he wants to revitalize this organization. That's huge, man. And if you're a Panther fan and you're thinking to yourself, man, we got to get back to the old ways and this and that and this. I mean, I've even seen people say we need, Luke Kuechly to be the coach.
Well, I've seen that so many times.
You got Dan Morgan, and he is the GM and the president. So, president of football. So, like, you basically have what you're asking for, as a Panther fan. And I love the fresh blood, man, with Canales, man. If I was still playing and I had a conversation with him like I did today, I'm running through a wall.
Ready to go. You ready
straight
to go?
Up. And I think, and so going back, and I'll end with this, and then we can move on. But like, I think one of the things that the difference between last year and the year before, or not the year before, but the time the coaching conference, news conference,
Right.
with Reich and Rule. I feel like people left not needing to be convinced. And I'm not saying like they won people over or they won like we're going to automatically have success. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is you left feeling comfortable. You left feeling, okay, we're in good hands. This organization's in good hands. A sense of pride, to be able to walk, in that stadium, walk out of the stadium. You should have a sense of pride right now going into this offseason. And you should think to yourself, what does patience look like? Because you're going to have to be patient, because this is, I think they're building the right staff, front office. It's going to take time to get the right players. You look at the 49ers, 2017, right? You look at how Shanahan and John Lynch came together, and it took them 6 years to reach this point, right? So it's going to take time, but it doesn't have to take 6 years either. So,
Schuyler, your thoughts on, because you were in there too, reporting for all Panthers SI, and you were in there last year when this whole situation was going on with Frank Wright and everything. What was the main difference to you today, sitting there listening to Dan and Dave talk?
I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of what Stu just said. But I think he hit the nail right on the head there with the comfort thing, because when you left Frank's press conference, I wasn't there. I actually got in about a month or two after Matt got the job, so I wasn't there for that press conference. But last year with Frank, you could see the vision somewhat because of the history and the experience that he had. You knew he had that experience as a head coach. He's been a play caller. He's worked with really good quarterbacks before. And you just kind of felt like you were just going to have to bank on that and expect that to carry over to here to Carolina. Dave is almost the polar opposite in that he doesn't have that head coaching experience. He's only had 1 year as an offensive coordinator, but you left the room thinking, well, damn, that guy knows what his vision is.
Yes.
And there's no questions about it. And it's the same thing with Dan Morgan in that they know what they're going to do. They understand that this team is not where it needs to be and that it is very far from where it needs to be. And it's going to take a lot of time to get to where it needs to be. But it's not if it's going to happen. For them, it's when it's going to happen. And what does it take to get there? And I think you could just tell by the way that they speak. I mean, Dan, he still got that serious look in his eye.
Well, he wants to play right now.
Yeah.
He wants to go play football right now. Go
right,
hit somebody.
right before I left, I went up to him, told him congratulations and everything, and you could just tell like this is going to get turned. Like you just had that feeling, and I don't know that you had that feeling last year with Frank, but with Dave, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd been told, by our Tampa Bay publisher at SI, look, he's going to be someone that's going to be very thoughtful in his answers. He's not going to shy away from any questions. He's going to tell you how it is. He's going to go very in depth on questions that you don't even think are in depth, but that's just who he is. And I mean, I've heard that kind of stuff before, but you go to the press conference today and you're like, yeah, this is exactly who this guy is. He's
made for this. He's made to he's made to lead men, people, women, boys. Like he's made to like, and you can almost like sense like when you have a guy that can just be honest and be himself and
genuine
and be an open book is basically how he presented himself today. Shedding tears like that to me as a family man, as a dad, as a husband, it means a lot, because what it does though, it humanizes things and it puts himself out there in the sense that allows, especially in this world, in this NFL world, this NFL business, to be vulnerable like that takes a whole different type of person. It takes a person that's confident in who he is, who his family is, where he is, and where he wants to go. That's a guy that I can get behind and follow.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Frank, it was more so like when things started to go bad last year, it was like they were searching for answers on the fly. They didn't know what to do. And I think maybe part of that had to do with the disalignment.
They didn't like each other. That's what really came down to.
Owner, the quarterback, like they weren't all on the same page, where Dave comes in and it's like he's already got the answers. He knows what he's going to do with Bryce. He knows what he's going to do to fix the offensive line. He already knows what he's going to do to find guys to help around. Bryce.
I was surprised that he actually, when they asked him about that with Bryce Young today, that he was so prepared to basically say, look, at that height that you can't just necessarily see everything over the line. So you got to do things and scheme him so he's got position to actually see some space. And nobody's ever talked of it that way before, really, even though we all know it. It's all, common sense, but no one's ever really said it out loud. And he said it. And when he said it, I was like, oh, okay. He gets it. He understands. Boop like this.
Schuyler, you're the journalist here. So you're good at remembering quotes.
Uh-huh.
So what was the quote he had about Pete Carroll as far as like thinking ahead, always thinking ahead, always looking ahead? When he was talking about, don't just look at the quarter, like don't just look at the quarterback. You got to look at, where the routes are developing, like, what coverages are happening, like just like forward thinking. And part of that forward thinking is when things suck right now, you got to look ahead. You got not look ahead, but you got to know that what's ahead is better than what's now. And if you're doing the things necessary, such as the mentality of winning every day, like today was a win, man, like, come on, man, this is messaging for not just football, but for
life,
little kids in school. Like, this is a guy that, can go to elementary school and kids will be like, yeah. And then this is a guy that can go speak in front of, a Fortune 500 company and people are like, yeah, let's go sell our rocks on.
It's almost like he shows up on ice cream everywhere he goes. Like he's that dude.
But also he's not selling dreams though. This is all authentic and real, tangible things that people can take and say, yeah, I'm empowered. So let me go do my job.
And what Dave kind of brought to the table today, and I didn't really expect it. And I've kind of noticed it over the last week or so since he's got the job. But you guys can probably agree with this. Over the last 6 or 7 years, I think it'd be fair to say that there's been a fairly major disconnect between the fans and those that run the football team, whether it be the owner, GM, or coach. There's not been this we're all in this together thing, right? There's not been that family type of environment that Stu, you, and Cam Newton and Jerry Richardson and that whole group that was in that building had. Today, it felt like that's starting to come back. You have a guy who is a son of the Carolina Panthers in Dan Morgan. You have Dave Canales who is engaging with the fans and doesn't take that head coach label as, oh, I'm so distant from you and I don't need to hear you. I don't need to voice my opinions to you. He's out on social media talking to the fans. Like,
I love
this is what I think this organization desperately needed. Is they needed somebody that could connect with the fans, that the fans could rally behind and say, you know what, that guy right there that's on the screen, that's our guy. That's our head coach. They haven't been able to say that for the last how many ever years since Ron left, right?
Yeah, really. So my quick takeaways, and then we'll get to their audio. Number one, Dave Canales is one of those human beings that does not need an alarm clock. You know what I mean? Like, he's the type of dude that his body naturally wakes up before his alarm goes off because he can't wait to start his day. He can't wait to get into his world and do whatever it is he's going to be doing. You know,
that's the energy for sure.
Yeah, that as soon as I heard him talk, I'm just like, oh, he's one of those. He's one of those folks that's like, his alarm is at 6:15. His body's naturally up at 5:30. Let's go. Let's do this. And it's infectious. Like when you're listening to him talk, just him having so much enjoyment in what he does, it makes you want to kind of go along for the ride with him. So that was my first takeaway. The second takeaway, after watching kind of most everything else and then seeing Twitter and Joe Person talking about stuff going on after the press conference, it honestly feels like the Teppers are taking a step back. It feels like they're not really as involved this time around in terms of picking the coaches and how it's going to work, the dynamic and who reports to who. It feels like they went back to the Matt Rule method where Dave Canales, this is your staff, you put it together, and we've seen him start to put people he knows. One of the things we didn't realize that all these coaches from last year that were with Frank Wright, Frank hadn't really worked with any of them. So this was doomed from the start. Like, we propped it up so large, but if you just think about the basic parts of running a football team, it wasn't going to work, and it didn't work. But this feels a little different. And now it feels like, I think I saw something like Tampa Bay has like half the team is free agents or something like that. So like they're talking about Mike Evans and a bunch of other dudes that might come over. Mike Evans had glowing words for Dave Canales and Brad Isdick, the new offensive coordinator who's coming over from Tampa Bay as well. Maybe you start picking up some guys on free agency because of the strength of who you hired. And then finally, Dan Morgan, who I've got comments from him right here. I had to pull when he was talking about the type of players that they want to bring in. And he was very specific about it. And he was very specific about who gave him that idea. Here's Dan Morgan talking about the type of players they want to bring in.
Just kind of wanted to talk about like the type of players that we want to bring in here and just DNA wise. First of all, we need to find those leaders, those competitors, as Jay Stu would say, those dogs. Like, we need some dogs. Like, we got to get some guys that are passionate about football, that love football. They want to come out every day and compete on the practice field, in the weight room. We need competitors. We got to bring that back here. We got to bring that back here to Bank of America Stadium, to where people get excited about coming to see our team. We're super passionate about bringing a team that the fans can be proud of, that our, players can be proud of. Like, when teams drive up to this stadium, we want them to fear that logo. The logo has to be feared again.
That part, when he was saying that stuff was getting me hyped. I was like, okay, Dan gets it, because this is stuff I've been confiding to both Stu and Schuyler for months that I was worried was going to disappear. Like, I didn't want that aspect of Panther culture to go away because somebody came in as the new GM and they're coming from Indianapolis or Miami or wherever. And yes, we don't have a Super Bowl winning culture, but we do have a culture, and it's been cultivated for over 27 years. And I didn't want to lose it. And Dan, like we said a couple of weeks ago, he's now the bridge. He's the bridge from the past Panthers to current Panthers to the future. And from his comments here, he understands that. That's the big part. He understands he's the bridge, and he knows exactly what he needs to do, not just to make this a good team, but to make this a team that Panther fans recognize. And that's what I was wanting to hear. And he hit it directly on the head. He also went into terms about players with like guts, like Jake Delhomme.
Because right now, it's not feared. So we got to get that back. But I think it starts with getting the right type of players. And it's guys like you, like Thomas Davis, Jonathan Stewart, Musim Muhammad. We got to get those type of guys. We want players with grit. We want players like Steve Smith, play with a chip on your shoulder, no holds bar. He's not taking any prisoners. We need those type of guys. Instincts and tenacity of Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly, guys like that can make plays. We need playmakers out there.
Oh, and when someone, I think it was you, Stu, that mentioned the thing about Luke Kuechly, although he's never coached anywhere, I swear, dude, I heard him on Up and Adams this morning with Kay Adams, and he was talking about what you do to stop Travis Kelce. He sounds like a coach. He sounds like a straight up defensive coordinator and a good one.
Luke Kuechly is one of the best football minds that people that love and enjoy the game of football will ever witness.
He's a damn computer.
Yeah, basically.
He's literally a computer. It's just, like some of the stuff he's saying, I'm like, well, I wouldn't even think that. He was like, you got to watch his eyes.
Bro, I swear to you, bro. Like when we played the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Oh, I remember that game.
Like it was basically like, hey, Luke, how do you stop Tony Romo? Oh, don't worry about it. I have it programmed in my brain.
2 interceptions later.
It's like, oh, okay. All right.
I need to address this before we go any further. I don't know if y'all know, but my Twitter got hacked this past week by some kind of crypto bot or something. So my my DEZ_3505 is no longer under my control. So it's putting out spam.
I might need to follow you then, because I ain't trying to get hit with that.
Come follow me. I had to make a new account. It's Des Johnson _3505. DES Johnson _3505. So if you've seen, Stu, if I've been hitting you from that handle, that's actually me. That's not someone pretending to be me. The Des 3505 one is no longer under my control. And to make it worse, it feels like there's nobody running Twitter, because I've actually had to go in there twice to tell them, hey, look, thing got compromised. I can't get in it. What can I do? And they basically the first time told me, well, we can't prove that you are you. So tough luck. You just have to make a new account. That's literally the email I got back from them. I'm like, what? And then my friend decided to report it on my behalf. I went in that way, and it let me put in my driver's license picture. And I went in and looked, and I'm getting blown up by people giving me messages like Hunter here. It's just putting Bitcoin like info on people's like threads or whatever. It's like every minute it's about something about Bitcoin. It's crazy. So that is not me. Please leave that account. Come to my other account, Des Johnson _3505. What made the job attractive? Because that's been the one question that many people thought people wouldn't come to this job, was because of what was going on over the last couple of months of the season. And I think it was David Newton. David Newton asked the question, and this was, I thought, was an excellent response.
And secondly, what were your thoughts coming to an organization that had fired 3 head coaches in 5 years?
Yeah, so first and foremost, in Seattle, like we never were anywhere close to touching the first overall pick. And the more that I got ready for this interview and started watching Bryce, looking at my notes from his eval, I mean, that's just a year ago. We're evaluating him as a player, as a person. And with all the information that we could, I just got more and more fired up about the opportunity to have this amazing talent. And he's the guy. He's the right guy that we all talk about when we have that quarterback, that franchise, face of the franchise type of player. And that got me really excited. And then just on top of that, I played against the Panthers twice, and the job that EJ Evero did with the defense was really hard to deal with. Great sound football, playing hard, some great players in some spots, and just the whole thing coming together. And then as I got to, Dan and I have some history. So then I thought, shoot, if you look at some of the successful organizations, there's a dynamic relationship between the head coach and the GM. And then, of course, as I've gotten to meet the Teppers too, to feel their competitive nature, their passion for what they want here, what they want to see when they come out to the practice field, and just kind of knowing I can be that without faking anything, without having to make something up. I just felt more and more like this was going to be a great home. And I was really hoping, you know, as they were sorting through the names that I would come out on as one of the top candidates.
Sold. Come on in here. Let's let's get to work. Like, I mean, literally he said everything I wanted him to say. And when he was saying all of it, it made me go back to think about the Frank Wright press conference from last year. And it made me realize I made myself like Frank Wright last year because of the situation. Because
yeah, I mean, Frank's an easy guy to like. But I think with Dave too, the thing that may get overlooked by a lot of people is his ability to relate to the players today, because he is a little bit younger. He's 42, but I think too, it's also the calmness that he has in, like, look, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but if we go through some adversity, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna find the answer. It's not panic. We're gonna freak out and go all over the place to figure out what's wrong, or go talk to somebody else about, like, we are going to sit down. We're going to figure it out. And that's why I think if you're going to put the future of a guy like Bryce Young in someone's hands, this is who you want it, right? Yeah. It's almost like the same thing, like, you know, you want someone that's nice and respectful to date your daughter, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing when you have that much invested in the number one overall pick. You want someone that's going to make sure that they take care of them when you give them to them. And I don't see how that this doesn't end up benefiting Bryce Young in the greatest ways, because I truly feel like he's going to pull the very best out of him.
He answered the questions too, in terms of it was the only interview he had. No other teams have been questioned, you know, asking to interview him or whatever. So people took that as a detriment at first. But look what happened around the landscape after this hire. Ben Johnson went back to Detroit. So we had been sitting around waiting on Ben Johnson, and he went back to Detroit for a second straight year. You know how bad that would have looked like for the Peppers and the franchise, that we got jilted at the altar again. And he didn't even come in for a second interview again. Bobby Slowick decided to go back to the Texans. So he's not out there anymore. It feels like the Commanders got stuck like what's the game? Duck, Duck, Goose. Well, like the only person that was left was Dan Quinn. So they had to hire him.
Let's think about this, right? Sean McVay, when he got hired by the Rams, was he highly sought out? Was he highly sought out?
Nope. He was a up and coming young mind or whatnot, right?
Dan Campbell.
Right. Dan Campbell.
Same way. Yep.
He was an interim head coach for the Dolphins. And then obviously the Dolphins didn't retain, but the Detroit Lions did. What I think is happening, bro, is what, you know, you get the sportsology folks, right? And I think, you know, you get people that, you know, if they're data driven and, you know, go and fix, you know, businesses and companies and get them to where they can be a winning organization, you have to basically think of it as an investment. If Tesla went up, I don't know, 200 basis points tomorrow, right? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, cool. And then the next day, someone's like, oh, man, Tesla went up 200 basis points yesterday, so I'm going to buy it today. You're late.
Yeah.
You're late to the party.
Yep.
Because it might crash the next day. You should have invested. You should have did a little bit more research about what Tesla was doing to where you can actually be a part of, you know, the you know,
be ahead of the curve.
Up and up. The head of the curve. Exactly.
I wish the owner of Tesla would get.
And what I think what we did was, you know, we saw a guy that nobody really knew about, but just wouldn't take the chance, right? And I think what everyone will end up having to do is looking at Mr. Tepper and saying, you know what? You did that.
That's where I want to full circle on this, because I think he did it right. I think he took the advice of the consulting firm, and he said something today. Joe Person tweeted it out after the main press conference. Were you? So Joe said that somebody asked, was he going to talk again or something like that? And Tepper just kind of smiled and was like, no, I'm in the background now. And I thought that was so huge. He only spoke for 2 minutes at the beginning of the press conference. And for those who think he's like power hungry, needs to be in the spotlight and all this stuff, I honestly feel like he took the advice of this firm and it's like, I'm stepping back. And if it blows up in our face, at least they can't point at me this time. Like, this is what we're going to do.
It's kind of a mic drop moment, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I honestly think it sucks because I mean, obviously things have transpired and you can't take things back, and what's wrong is wrong, what's right is right. But I think at the end of the day is you have a passionate, owner who just is passionate. He just wants to win. And that's what that at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want an owner that wants to win. You want a president of football that wants to win. You want a GM that wants to win. You want a head coach. You want people that want to win and that are passionate about winning, because that means that everyone will go the distance to make that happen. And I think what we're seeing is everything's finally, hopefully, only time can tell, but I feel pretty good about what's happening in the sense of the direction we're going. I mean, you talk about, man, I'm just excited about, the what's happening, in that front office. Like, I mean,
it's so different from where we were like a month ago.
I think that even just the scouting department right now, as far as under Dan's leadership, the expectations of what you're looking at and who you're looking at are going to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take a guy like Puka Nacua, right? The Rams saw 9 games played, 48 receptions, 625 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns, and said that guy is going to be a baller for us. You know what I'm saying?
It's a dude. And when he had fifth round? When he a 5th round pick?
5th round pick. Oh, he runs a 4.57 40.
So Jerry Rice. Yeah, Jerry was running a 4.52.
Bench press 15, pretty strong for a receiver. But that's what I'm excited to see, as we continue to move forward under this new leadership. As far as what are we looking for? What type of player are we going to get? Are we going to get?
Do you believe?
Are we going to get the players that everyone's talking about? Or are we going to find the diamonds in the rough?
The next dudes. That's when we're good, is because the next dudes have stepped out. It's not like a bunch of dudes that used to be good and got better again.
It's the 3rd and 4th and 5th round guys. Yes. And clearly this year, Brock Purdy's proving, the last guy taken. The last guy taken can make a difference.
I was going to get Brock here in about 2 seconds.
Always talks about the alignment thing, and some people are asking why that's even a big thing. Just think about it like this, right? When Tepper hired Matt Rule, he had a sitting GM in Marty Herney, who had been in the league for a while, has been a GM, had made decisions. You go from that situation with Herney and Rivera to Herney, and you bring in a college coach, okay, who's never had head coaching experience. He's only been in the NFL a year, a couple years, or whatever it was with the Giants. And you're going to give him all the power. Matt Rule had all the power over a guy that had been in the league for a long time.
He was running the social media accounts even. He was running everything.
Go from that dynamic was never going to work.
No.
You bring in Scott Fitterer. So Scott comes in, he gets his opportunity, but it's not Scott's guy. I mean, Scott could say, you know what? Yeah, I could see how Matt Rule could build this thing and I could help build it. But it's also an opportunity because GM jobs don't pop open nearly as much as a head coaching job. So if a GM job pops open, you're to really try and get it. So that really wasn't going to work, especially when Matt was still kind of in control. You go and get Frank Reich. It doesn't work out. It didn't seem like Frank was really set out, like I said before we started recording. It just felt like he needed a year off after what had went down in Indianapolis. And at that point, you just need to hit the reset button. You need to hire a head coach and a GM in the same offseason and allow the GM to have a say in that coach. Because now what we're seeing with Dan and Dave is, look, these guys, they're not just trying to get to know each other right now.
They already know each other.
Yeah, they've known each other for years, and it shows. You can tell they
go and work.
So check this. So I talked to basically the head of it, the historian for the Panthers today. And check this out. Dave, yeah. And so check this out. So John Fox and Marty Herney.
Mhm.
Marty Herney was doing something like in the front office, like doing stuff like maybe contracts or something like that for the San Diego Chargers.
Right.
And John Fox, I think he said, was coaching DBs at the time.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
For the San Diego Chargers, right? You have a coach, you have a front office guy. And then one day they say to themselves, oh, let's go bring some magic over there to the Carolinas. Because we know each other. We know each other. So let's go make it happen. Like, that's how these things happen, man. Like, to be honest, like everything today was authentic and it was relationship oriented.
It wasn't forced.
It wasn't
forced.
It
wasn't like
last year. Yeah.
It was like they're, wanting to get back to the, the keep pounding. But this is how you get back to the keep pounding.
Yeah.
You have Dan Morgan. He embodies keep pounding. He was coached by Sam Mills.
He was there when he said it.
He was there when he said it. He was a part of the culture when it became the culture. And so he knows what it looks like. He knows what it embodies. So, and then you have Dave Canales, who comes in and, embodies, the energy to make that impact and to deliver a message and a code. And I love that how he was saying, just even being on alignment with messaging. Like, how are we talking to each other? What words are we using every day?
That
you know
felt
what I'm saying?
like towards what happened this past year in the building, and he was witnessing it. Like, that kind of, to me, it was like a little jab. Like, yeah, we're not about that. We're not going to be doing the whole behind the back thing, the going to the owner. We're not doing that. That's not how we are, and that's not how we're going to operate. And I thought he did it perfectly. So, he really put out that there. We only got a little bit of time left here before we get to the top of the hour. NFC AFC Championship game thoughts from this past Sunday. Can anybody stop Pat Mahomes? Like, did we pick the Ravens? Where's my?
I didn't pick the Ravens. I don't know who picked the Ravens. It wasn't me.
Actually, yeah, someone can stop Pat Mahomes, but he's retired.
Who's that?
Tom Brady.
Oh, good riddance.
That was man. Schuyler, you got some kids. Schuyler, you got some kids on the way.
Yeah.
That was such a dad joke.
I know, it really was.
That was such a dad joke.
Pat Mahomes, they're literally down to Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce ain't even out here running routes anymore. Have you noticed this? He don't even run routes. He goes to the middle part of the zone and waits.
That's what Rick was talking about. He finds the soft spot and sits in it. Like,
and he always finds them. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And
Luke did a great job explaining that. What was that on?
Up in Adams. It's on
Adams.
Is it Amazon or something? I don't know. Kay Adams left.
But it's exactly what happens. You take your eyes off him for a split second, and that's when Patrick Mahomes notices it and he dumps it off. It's like, oh, I know where your eyes are. Yeah, out on my guy, my favorite target.
Just kills him. Is
that the Taylor Swift voice?
Hey man, look. Everybody need to get off Taylor Swift, man.
We do. We've been defending her, actually. I went back to some of the episodes. We've been defending Taylor Swift the past month, really.
Yeah,
we're like,
man, look, my daughter loves Taylor Swift. Yeah. And she's doing her thing. She's positive. She's doing her thing. Just let her do her thing. And she's in love with Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Like, come on, let it happen. Let it happen.
Yeah, let it happen. Like, if you are a man watching football and you have daughters, and you're sitting there complaining on social media about Taylor Swift taking up all of 30 seconds of your 3.5-hour broadcast because she's on the screen, you need to be ashamed of yourself because you're showing a bad example to your kids.
This was a similar thing to the Tony Romo and
Carrie Underwood. Wasn't he dating Carrie Underwood?
Jessica Simpson.
Oh, he was Jessica Simpson. Yeah. Well, you dated Carrie Underwood too? Tony Romo?
I don't know. It was one of them. But
did they make the same? I'll put it like this: did they make the same argument for how many times they showed John Harbaugh in the booth?
No.
Well, not John,
Well,
Jim Harbaugh. They showed
Or-
Jim Harbaugh in the booth like
No.
5 times watching the Ravens get
Giselle?
beat up. Giselle, they showed her all the time. They showed
It's really
parents.
it's you know what? It's really like this whole thing of like, oh, don't get Swift away. Like
Yeah.
it's the media that's doing all of this.
Who's
Like
their voice. We're just
like but it's the media. Like the media makes this thing bigger than what it really is. And so it's like, hey, look, this Super Bowl, make sure that you're watching the Super Bowl and not being, convinced that Taylor Swift is taking over the Super Bowl because she's just there to watch her boyfriend.
Yeah, she don't care about us.
She don't care about y'all. Like, listen, like she don't got it. She don't need the hype. She don't need the attention. So just relax, people.
Let me ask you this, Stu, being a running back, how angry would you be if you were playing for the Baltimore Ravens and you're the number one rushing team?
Man, let's get to this. Let's get to this.
Y'all
chose the Ravens to win, right? Y'all chose the Ravens to win?
I think I chose the Chiefs. I was like, I'm not betting against Pat Mahomes in January. Like, I don't care who they're playing. I can't find where I wrote it down.
I can't remember, honestly.
Yeah, I probably chose them to win, but if I
I only
did,
have the
shame on me.
division picks. I think we said that Pat Mahomes was going to beat him. Like somehow he's going to figure it out. But how do they run the ball 6 times in the second half?
To answer your question, I would be extremely mad. And we had a kind of a similar experience, me and D'Angelo, my rookie year. We made the playoffs and it turned out really bad.
What year was that?
08.
Yeah.
And had some things that go our way, obviously, in the game, turnovers, keep you from running the ball sometimes. But I do recall, like, maybe we had 8 carries or something like that game. And
was that the Arizona game?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. I remember that. That's why you didn't get the ball because I remember what was going on in the game.
But no, but like the Ravens had it in the bag. They had it in their game plan and within their DNA. Listen, Lamar Jackson. We need you to be Lamar Jackson. We don't need you to be the best quarterback in the nation and in the world. Like, we need you to be Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson can be better than the best quarterback in the world.
It was almost like he was trying to prove he could win the game by just passing the football, and it backfired on him. Like, because some of those he just took off.
Use them legs.
Especially when you can use them.
If they're not open, run.
They got him there. Is what really happened.
Look at Brock Purdy. That's what Brock Purdy did.
And then not just that, like the offense, I blame it on the offense coordinator. At some point, you can't just be like getting bullied by your quarterback. Like I have a feeling, Lamar Jackson might be like, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do. Like, I'm gonna do this. Like, you know what I'm saying?" And like, I'm with that. But you, as an offensive coordinator, you have a job and a duty to put guys in the positions to win, and he didn't do that. Like, you got at some point.
He didn't get the job in Carolina.
So what I'm saying, he can stay wherever he at. I don't want him here.
He was at the very end. I was like, no. Like Dan Quinn, no. Like the last thing I saw from him, no.
But I mean, but what I will say though is like, you need to, if you have it, like what they said in the press conference today, Carolina Panthers, you have a plan, you execute the plan, you are aligned on the plan. You have a process to follow. And once you have a process to follow, you execute the process. Like all these things it doesn't just get pulled out of thin air. Like, you know what I'm saying? As far as, executive decisions, coaching staff, like implementing the game plan. The guys that are winging it on the fly are the guys running the ball, playing football, making tackles. Those are the guys that have to figure it out on the field because it's not going to always be what's drawn up. You know what I'm saying? So the players are the ones that have to navigate the what ifs and the unfamiliar territory while you're out there on the field. And so shame on the offensive coordinator for that game.
Yeah, and we've seen it happen before. We've seen Kyle Shanahan fall into it in that Super Bowl against the Patriots where he just stopped running the football for some reason and, a half later and some overtime. There you go. I know Schuyler's got to get because he got another show coming up here in just a second. So before he goes, Super Bowl predictions, Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers, the rematch from 4 years ago. Instead of it being Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback for San Francisco, it is Brock Purdy. Instead of Pat Mahomes showing up with a bunch of fifth grade kids for his offensive line, I think he's actually showing up with an actual one this year and a much better defense than he had 4 years ago too. And Taylor Swift with Travis Kelce. They're all coming along too. So who you got? Kansas City, San Francisco. It's the Super Bowl, Schuyler.
Man, I want to go with Kansas City. And like you've said before many times, every time you want to go against them, it backfires. But when you look at them on paper, I think San Francisco is the more talented team. Like, they've got weapons all over the place. George Kittle, Christian, Debo, Brandon Ayuk. It's just insane. The defense doesn't get enough love. You got Fred Warner, Bosa, Armstead, the list goes on.
They traded like a second for Chase Young in the middle of the year. He's on that.
That team is so ridiculously stacked. It's not even fair. But Kansas City, Rashee Rice is starting to become a player, I think. Some guys are stepping up. Pacheco has really become a real nice player. But I'm going to go with San Francisco. I just think it's their year. It feels like it's been building for a little while now. They just needed the right quarterback to do it. As you guys know, I'm still a little skeptical on Brock because I still think a lot of it is the pieces that are around him. But he can still make plays too. So I'm going to go with the Niners.
I shouldn't even say it that way because Brock made some plays on Sunday. But game managers can do that. Game managers can make plays. They just don't make 50 plays in a game. Stu, who you got? 49ers, Chiefs. Should be a good one. I think this was the matchup we all said we wanted to see, I think, if we had to pick one.
As a matter of fact, I think in the beginning of the season, I actually predicted this. I predicted the Chiefs and the Niners. Don't look for the receipts. Don't look for the receipts.
That's what happened.
But just know that that's what happened. I told everybody that this is going to happen. I think the 49ers are going to win.
Wow.
And it's hard for me to do that and say that out loud because last week I thought the Baltimore Ravens were going to win. But I think what changes for me is a fella like Christian McCaffrey. Okay.
Yeah.
If you learn anything from that Baltimore game, you need to learn this. Run the freaking ball. Okay?
You can run the ball on
the ball on Kansas City and commit to it. Because if Christian McCaffrey gets the touches he needs and he finds that zone, it's game over. Ain't no coming back. Okay? And do what my guy Luke says. Don't take your eyes off Travis Kelce.
Go watch
If you take your eyes off of Travis Kelce, shame on you because Patty Mahomes gonna find you. If you peeking in the backfield or you peeking over here and trying to find out where my curly hair is, look, it's over with. Okay, so keep your eyes on Travis Kelce and make sure you run the ball. Okay, make Pacheco be the one to beat you, and Pacheco, he's a fantastic runner. Fantastic running back. But I feel like at the end of the day, clearly the San Francisco and the 49ers have the upper hand. It's going to come. And I think Brock Purdy, because of this running game, if they stick to it, that passing game is going to open up. And all I got to say is, Kittle, where's Kittle at? Oh, he's right there because the play action that came up, and then I'm just gonna dump it over behind the linebackers, and he's wide open. He's gonna take off. He's gonna brace the tackle. We're gonna have some good. Listen. The 49ers, they winning. Bang, 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 Niner gang.
Niner gang, yeah. No, I didn't think I was have to use this button today.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad.
We were having such a great day. The press conference, everything was sunny and stuff. And then y'all came in here and bet against Pat Mahomes in January. Have y'all learned nothing in the past 5 years?
Are you not entertained?
Don't bet against Pat Mahomes in January. It's February now. I can't do it. I can't.
Desmond, you chose the Ravens last week.
No, I did not. I picked the Chiefs. I came into this playoffs thinking I am not betting against Pat Mahomes. They got it together at the end of the year.
I can't remember.
I picked the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs the week before too. Like, I'm picking the Chiefs this week. It's the Chiefs. That we are in the middle of a Chiefs dynasty and don't realize it, or maybe we do realize it and we don't want to admit it. But this is a Chiefs dynasty that's happening right now. People keep talking about when's Andy Reid going to retire. Why does he need to? He ain't got to retire. He's got the best player on the planet. Like, he can Phil Jackson this thing for the next 7 years if he wants to, and just let Pat Mahomes do his thing. He's already proven he can win with whatever he's got around him. He's literally Pat Mahomes is the best player in football. Christian McCaffrey's right there underneath him.
You want to know something about Patrick Mahomes, though? Everybody talks about this game manager stuff and playmaker. I'll tell you what really makes a game changer is the ability to be the best guy on the team, clearly, but the ability to understand when to manage and when to take over.
Yes.
Because that's what Patrick Mahomes does really well. And that's what he's crafted his game to, especially this year. There's been times where nothing goes right in the passing game. So you know what the game plan is? Hey, yo, Pacheco, I need you to go out there and run crazy.
There you go. Yeah.
open some things up for me, okay? I'm a manage this. We ain't gonna score immediately, but we're gonna end up scoring. Just trust the system. Okay?
It's not a bad thing either to be called a game manager. We have to say this every week. The entire league is game managers. There's only 4 game changers that even exist currently right now.
To some extent, or else you're not a good quarterback.
Exactly. Like, you gotta. It's okay to be a game manager. We're just saying game changers can do some things that game managers just can't, and that's all it really is. Pat Mahomes can throw a ball behind his back. Yeah. Pat Mahomes can throw a ball, a no-look pass in football. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying things that don't make sense. Like that. That's not supposed to happen.
The other is the thing. You have to have a healthy mix.
Right. Yeah. And I think Cam summed that up best. I think last week or so, where he was like, there were times where he was like, I knew I was a game changer, but there were times where I could have been a game changer more, and I wasn't. And looking back on it, I should have been. Whereas a game manager can't have those thoughts because their game is not situated where they can turn it on in the middle of a game and sense the moment and go after it like that. They're wired to don't turn the ball over and get this play ran. You know what I mean? So there's a difference, but I ain't betting against Kansas City. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. I've done it before. We'll do it for you. Okay, because good luck.
All I know is that +1. If you're +1 in the turnover ratio,
82%.
That's 82%, baby.
Yeah, I love it.
And I want to say quote my man Dave Canales. Man, shout out.
I like him. And I feel bad because my Steeler friends and other friends that aren't Panther fans, they were like, "You're jumping back on that hope bus again, aren't you?" And I was like, I didn't want to be like, yeah, because it was so soon after the end of the year where we were all despondent and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't score any points, and I can't help it. I am hopeful. Like, it sounds like they got it right, and if they got it right, now the work begins. Now we'll see what they're going to actually do with the, filling out the roster.
You got to be patient.
Somebody asked
the restart button. The restart button exists, so hit it as soon as possible, so that way you can just be in it.
Yep.
This off season, you got to think to yourself, look, I'm patient. Whatever happens, my hands are an offering to being a fan, a committed fan. I'm going to die hard this thing out because this is what it's about. Because before the Carolina Panthers got the culture, they had to go through some hard things.
Hard times, like Dusty Rhodes would say.
And legitimately, had to suffer and be around hard times. Like Sam Mills, that wasn't an easy thing for that organization to experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about keep pounding, this isn't just like, oh yeah, football. No, this is life. Okay. And so I think this organization is heading in the right path. And I think, with the leadership that they're putting in place, we'll be able to chant keep pounding on Sundays and Thursdays and Saturdays and Mondays, with some emphasis behind it and some meaning, especially to the younger generation that is taking fold into the fan world. So
I think we'll actually, that's probably a good place to stop it right there. Go rate, subscribe, Bleav in Panthers on all major podcast platforms on the Bleav Podcast Network. If you want the video, you can catch it each week on Tobacco Road's YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Shout out to everybody who's been finding us over the past couple of weeks. Our print has been growing, so to speak, a little bit in terms of people recognizing us and understanding what we do and everything else with the Panthers. Bleav has given us some compliments on some of the stuff we've done recently, so we really appreciate all the support. It's been a hard year. It's been a hard 4 years to do this on the Panthers, and somehow we've been able to pump out content for you guys. So thank you so much for being here. I don't think we're going to be on next week. That's why we do the Super Bowl stuff into this one. We're going to enjoy the week off next week, going to the Super Bowl, and then probably back right after to talk about the aftermath as Pat Mahomes holds up his third Super Bowl ring in 4 years or whatever it would be. Or
Not
right? Is that 3 and 4? Yeah, it would be 3 and 4, wouldn't it? No, 3 and 5.
Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey.
I'll be happy either way. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I'm just saying I can't bet against Kansas City. I just but the whole Taylor Swift thing too. It seems like they were supposed to do this, and then what if Travis Kelce proposes to her at the end of the game on the podium as they're raising the Lombardi Trophy, and then Travis gets down on one knee, and everybody's like, "Ah!" You think the NFL wouldn't know that?
Hey Desmond, if the Chiefs lose, you got to eat 5 scoops of mayonnaise.
What? I wouldn't do that if it was the Panthers in the Super Bowl.
Hey.
Nah. 5 scoops of mayonnaise. Oh,
I can spend it either way.
Why do you have mayonnaise off to the side, like ready to go?
Mayo Bowl.
Yeah.
Now, I won't bet against them, but I won't put my life on the line for them either. Like they ain't my team.
So you saying mayonnaise? So you saying mayonnaise is life threatening?
And I draw the line at mayonnaise. 5 cups. You said 5 cups. You didn't say 5 tablespoons.
I said 5. I said 5 cups. I said 5.
5 cups.
Yeah, 5 spoons. 5. How about 5 tablespoons?
Mayonnaise or Miracle Whip?
Mayonnaise, not Miracle Whip. You know Miracle Whip tastes good. Mayonnaise.
Let me think about it. I'll think about it.
All right.
If I did something like that, I have to do it on air or something just to get something.
Yeah, do it on there. Yeah.
We're
put it on a snow cone.
Before we give Stu any more ideas of random things for me to eat if the Chiefs lose, we're going to get out of here.
Put some hot sauce on it.
Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back after that. Follow us on all of our social media. Bleav in Panthers has social media accounts now on Instagram, Twitter, and there was a Facebook page, but Facebook took it down. It's a long story. You can find us there. So for Schuyler Callihan, for Jonathan Stewart, I'm Desmond Johnson. Don't go to that DEZ_3505 Twitter account. They're trying to sell you Bitcoin or something. It's not me. Unfollow it. Go get to my other account, Des Johnson _3505. You've been watching and listening to Bleav in Panthers podcast on Bleav Podcast Networks. Keep pounding.